Welcome, comic book fans, writers, and artists, to another episode of the Panel Pod. Today, we're joined by the talented AC Medina, the creator and writer of Deadhead, published by Iron Age Horror. In this episode, Medina expresses his love for horror and slasher films, the heart and charisma behind his characters, and how that translates into this exciting title that stars a brutal and refreshing protagonist. Stick around to the end to get massive insight on this creator's career, and make sure to support Deadhead and the plethora of other titles Medina is writing through the links in the description. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Panel Pod. I'm your host, Noah Goins, and today I'm with the writer of Deadhead, AC Medina. How are you today, my friend?
How's it going, man? I'm good. It's a very sunny, bright, hot May day, man. But I'm just hyped to talk some Deadhead. And it's been such a like rapid fire month. Feel like that May before the rush of like June conventions, like Heroes Con and like whatnot. It always like I feel like you always have to squeeze in so many things. You know, it's
Yeah,
also like pitch season.
yeah, I'm so excited to talk about Deadhead, man. We talked a little bit before the pod. My experience with picking up the title, literally random, in a long box of new and upcoming titles, and I was taken away by the artwork. And as soon as we opened up, I mean, I'm a huge horror fan. Uh, Before we get into the world of Deadhead, I have to know for myself, what does Memento Mori mean?
Mental Mori. Oh, that's a very good question. With Gabriel, he brings a lot of these small little like attributes to character designs, and Memento Mori is totally on him. I believe with Deadhead, he doesn't talk. And we have made a pact, spoiler, that he'll never talk. Hopefully, like if if you catch me later 3 years down the line and Deadhead actually talks, and you're like, oh, you thought you said he wasn't. I'm sorry, but as of now, we've made this pact to like have him not talk. So I think like in the best way I can say it, it's him communicating. It's him saying the words he wants. I think with and Deadhead kind of has a mission, and that's his mission statement, his scythes. And but as far as the specifics of why it's there, I would say tune in. I know there's a lot we're gonna have in regards to Deadhead's origins post Volume One. We have actually a whole intro arc that we have focused for like his backstory. Not too long, but I promise there we'll answer more about his like specifics.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Memento Mori is etched on the side of his, they're like Reaper blades. I don't know the exact
Scythes.
terminology. Scythes, thank you. They're very, very cool. But yeah, this title is in ways a new character in a new world, in a new universe, telling a new story, but at the same time is celebrating the tropes of iconic horror films and Halloween, and just tell me about where this inspiration of kind of exaggerating the genre in a sense, in a boys like way. It's very cool.
Oh, I it so I've always been a big slasher fan. But as far as like writing horror, I've always been a horror fan. From like I would say before writing comics, I never thought I would be writing horror. Kind of stumbled into it. I wanted to write crime and sci-fi mostly, but like horror has blown up in our industry. And my writing partner, she's a huge horror aficionado, and the books that we've been able to work on together were horror. So Deadhead was my first attempt at me doing solo horror. Like, how does horror translate in my way? And I went for what I like most, and that is very much I am a big fan of I don't know like I don't know if people consider it bad, but like I love schlockiness. I love like some of my favorite slashers are like I love Jason like five, like I like the middle of the ones where they have stretched thin of all their ideas and they're just going as wild as possible because I think like I think that comes from the true love of the genre. And with Deadhead, I really wanted to bring the world of slashers and horror into the world of comics.
Mm.
It's not at all a knock or anything on other slasher stories, but before I was working on Deadhead, I noticed that a lot of slasher books have the same pacing as like slasher movies. And while that's awesome and cool, I really wanted to make something that felt comics first. That is something that I'm a big proprietor of. I'm a big fan of comic book stories that are proud to be comic books, and Deadhead is that to a T. It is like, something we always say when working on Deadhead is we never want it to feel less than 11 out of 10.
Mm.
It's always exaggerated. It's always fun. Almost escapism in it because when you're working with so many guts, so much blood, it like there's got to be an element of fun. If not, it just gets gratuitous. Even though we are quite gratuitous in other ways, I would say, or we have been said. But like really like the fact that we were able to give homage to horror, give pay its rights, but have it feel like a comic book. We've gotten reviews that we feel our book feels timeless in different ways, where some people are like, man, I could have seen this come out in the 90s. I could have seen this come out in the 2000s. I can see it come out now, or I can see it. And that felt awesome to me. That's like one of the best, like, rewarding reviews I've gotten, is that it feels like it feels truly comics code in every way possible. And that's what we wanted to do. I wanted to make a comic first always. I wanted to get the loudness, the exaggeration, the character design appeal of your traditional fight comics. And I wanted to have horror as a big proprietor of it. It's a whole universe based off of slashers, which is just a subgenre of horror. But something I think that people often forget about horror, that it really correlates with the superhero genre really well, in that horror can be anything. Horror can have fantasy, it can have magic, it can have sci-fi, it can have romance, it can have any sort of genre fits with horror. And I think Deadhead kind of shines for that reason. It has the ability to each issue feels different. We're able to give Deadhead so many different bad guys to go against. We're able to give him so many different allies to go against, and and as a writer for it, the universe just feels so vast. Like I feel like, especially when I started outlining our second volume, I really started noticing how I'm like, man, this does feel like it was like one of those mission accomplished moments where I'm like, wow, this feels exactly like writing a sandbox superhero universe, but these aren't superheroes; these are slashers, and it's really something that we've had a lot of fun with. We've just ran with it. It's I think expanding this universe has been the most fun of it.
There was so much to take away from what you just said. And the first thing, or a couple of things that were popping into my mind, giving these slashers the same treatment of, let's just say, a superhero, you're able to expand on some of these tropes that maybe aren't touched on in, let's just say, a Jason. Like, for instance, I want to make sure I get the name correct. Is it Mason? Is
Yeah,
that guy?
Mauler Mason.
Mauler Mason. So what I loved is that you made that decision to kind of show like a soft side, or him tired of being this horror icon through the ages in different styles in different years. They even sent me to space. Like like
That's one of
that's
my favorite lines
hilarious.
too.
But we don't ever get to hear or see that. We don't get to see what Jason feels about, him being used
Yeah.
as this legacy character. So I think that's really cool that you're able to give this like special treatment to these characters that you love in your own unique way.
That's one of the most funs. I love Mason. He's a fan favorite. He's quite the poetic soul. I have a lot of fun writing him, and it's exactly that. That agency is a big central theme of Deadhead. Deadhead is fighting for his agency. That's his whole thing. Where Mason has been this slasher throughout the years. Deadhead, before becoming Deadhead, he was a victim throughout every
Mm,
generation. He's really the guy that died first all the
that's
time
what I picked
until
up
he
on.
decided to just slash back. And that agency is what he's craving, is kind of what I wanted to give to my favorite slashers. I'm of the belief that the slashers are the stars of their movies. I and they're like, as the nature of IP goes, they've kind of been squeezed, wring dry, and they don't have any say in it. So like that idea is something that we wanted to explore. And I'm sure if you've read like the to the present issues, which I believe issue 6 comes out at the end of June, so we're up to issue 5. Um, you meet why they like the very specific reason why they're fighting for their agency. They want their freedom. They want the ability to, maybe they don't want to slash. Mason clearly doesn't. Mason wants nothing more than to own a vineyard in Italy and live in the hills in peace. But he's like the LeBron James of slashers. He is the GOAT of slashers. Like that is what he's good at. He hates it, but that is what he's good at. That is what he's made to be. You find out in volume 2 that he's very much nurtured to be that way. And that kind of through line follows a lot of our characters. Deadhead, as he starts killing slashers, he finds out that many of them don't even want to be slashers. A lot of them are just kind of forced to be. One of my favorite sort of openings we have in the next volume is issue 7. We open in a clown comedy club of just killer clowns, and they're talking about a union because the killer clowns have been trying to unionize for years. There's so all these like little subplots, sub like stories we've been able to weave into Deadhead because of, again, just being able to pay homage to our favorite slashers. Give
Yeah.
them have the conversations we never see them have.
Yeah, and even involving, the final girls and their whole thing. One thing that I picked up on that was really cool, and maybe you can confirm this for me, but I believe it's in issue 2 where you give Mahler Mason, a little bit of his backstory. Is that what Luz sees when she touches Mahler when they're in the cell? Because it's kind of like she immediately understood, you know,
Yes. She
why they were kind of calm and he could come along for the ride.
Luce, she's clairvoyant. She can see someone's entire life as she touches them. It's a way to give her she has the understanding that we the readers have. We know that, and she knows that now through that communication. It gets a little tricky because having as proud as we are of having a silent character, a silent protagonist no less, it is comic books and people love words and they need words, I'm a writer of words, so we've tried to figure out a way to give Deadhead a world of different characters that stand on their own but are also can support our narrative. And Luce, very much, she is one of the hearts of our stories. I love the final girls. I was so excited to show them. I've said that, as writers this happens all the time, but when I started creating them, I was like, man, these two feel like protagonists of their own stories. And spoilers, they might just be in the near future. And but so when that's exactly what happens there with Mason. She kind of gets it, and that whole moment is kind of fun because Deadhead. That's right when we unmask them too, and Deadhead and Mason they're in Hell Lot, and they kind of realize, like Deadhead especially realizes how pointless his whole endeavor was of trying to kill Mason, because in this world death is such a commodity that it like killing him almost became meaningless in that moment. And Luce is able to confirm that. She's able to kind of confirm that he's not the target. He's actually, you and him have the same target, and you guys should work together.
Yeah, and seeing that moment between Deadhead and Mauler, they kind of have that confirmation with each other when they're both down on their luck. They don't have their shit together. You know what I mean? It's great seeing these interactions between characters, and that gives a moment for I want to get into the artist you're working with, Gabriel Fonseca. He's able to bring so much fluidity and life to these characters.
Oh yeah, and me and Gabriel, we've gotten to the point that we might talk every day. Like we give each other calls at random moments when ideas come. So in the when that translates to the page itself, because I always tell Gabriel to, and I tell most of my artists this, but me and Gabriel especially, I tell them to just always feel as free, feel like a sandbox. If you want to change the layout, go for it. I trust him. I trust him with a lot to make it that fluidity that he brings, that sort of like unchained. It's created a lot of moments that we've really appreciated because it's been one of those wild rides, and we started. Deadhead, we didn't know what it was gonna like. Everybody has that. Nobody knows what their stories are gonna be. But truly, we did not like. If you had told me that Deadhead would have just been a Kickstarter of 44 pages and that's it, I would have been fine. I would have been like pleased, because I would have been excited. And then suddenly it became an ongoing series with like no stop in sight right now. And a lot of that I think has gone to that sort of connection that me and Gabriel have had. Issues 1 and 2, which really were our first Kickstarter, and feel very much standalone. I've that I've told people there. I feel like my real issue 1 is issue 3 because issue 1 and 2 that was just a Kickstarter, and that was that ended up being such a proof of concept that it got Iron Age their distribution deal, which we're really proud of
Oh
to have
wow,
helped with
that's
that.
incredible.
Thank you. And so with Gabriel, when that happened, it was kind of confirmation that like what we're doing is working. Let's do it more so. And as the issues have gone by, Gabriel, like Deadhead, has become more and more untethered and just feeling it in the moment. Very rhythmic. And I think a lot of that comes because him and Barlow, who does the colorist, Barlow Moriera, he they're inseparable. They work in the same studio. Barlow is also there for all of our narrative choices. Same with Dave Lentz, who ends up being our series letterer. We've been lucky to have been lettered by two great letterers. The first 2 issues were lettered by Micah Myers, legend of the game right now, and then Dave Lentz does our letters currently. So all the team has that communication. We have a group chat that we're all constantly blowing up. We have a we so and all that comes from me and Gabriel. It comes from letting Gabriel just do his thing. I think he has some of the most incredible layouts I've seen in a long time. He's got such a like a raw energy that Deadhead kind of lives and dies on. It's a again, like going back to a silent character, Deadhead, while he doesn't speak verbally, he speaks a lot through actions, like very much like there's a moment in issue 7 that I'm very proud of, and I got to give a lot of credit to Gabriel because I think it's the best non knock knock joke I'll ever write, and and Deadhead is the one that kind of does it where it was like Gabriel just suggested he was like, can Deadhead like do a knock knock joke since like the clown's there and we can have the clown turn say who's there, and Deadhead like he's like knocking it on he's not he taps one of his scythes on a wall to do the knock knock, and it works really well,
That's so
and I
cool.
just love that because it's like it's so cheeky. It gives like it lets you know that he has many thoughts, many feelings behind that mask, and he's letting his actions speak to it. And I definitely think that all connects back to Gabriel and his work.
Yeah, it's definitely has like this animated aspirations about it. Like it just feels very like it's pushing as far as it can to, bring Deadhead to life in a cool way as possible. I don't really know how to explain it. And by issue 5, you leave us up on a cliffhanger a bit. We get to meet Bayless, which is an interesting big bad, so to speak. But also very flamboyant in a sense. Tell me about his characterization.
Oh, I love Deacon Bayless. So everyone in our universe, Clerk, um, the Final Girls, Bayless, there's like there's a very loose structure happening. Bayless creates the slashers. Final Girls get hired to kill the slashers once Bayless is done with them. Um, but what's happened is this has been going on forever. And everyone is kind of bored. It's hard to say, it's hard to be bored of murder per se, but like it's become monotonous, it's become routine. And Deadhead comes in here and quite literally shatters all of that because no one knows where he came from. No one knows why he came from. And they have the answers for everything else, but not him. He's this anomaly. And instead of being frustrated by that, Bayless is so inspired by that. And mind you, he has such an ego that he still thinks he's responsible for creating Deadhead. Even if he can't explain it, he's like, oh yeah, I definitely. It's like taking credit for something he didn't do.
Mm.
Coincidentally, Bayless represents, you know, the producers. Represents Hollywood. He represents the money makers, the decision makers. But he has the spirit of an artist, and he realizes that the world of slashers, as it's been, has gotten monotonous and routine. It's why every slasher is kind of over it. You know, it's a job to them, and it's a job to everyone. But Deadhead is not that. Deadhead is pure, utter survival, fight back, rebellion, and that gets Bayless so excited. It's like Deadhead almost becomes like a muse to him,
Mm.
which really makes that their fight pretty exciting. It
That's
it's
like a
one,
Warhol Basquiat type of
yeah, you know,
yeah.
and I'm a big video game guy, and if you've ever played Metal Gear Rising, the senator, he's a big inspiration for Bayless. We wanted him to feel that sort of like theatrics that he has. We wanted him to be that jacked, and Gabriel added the element that if you notice, he's always drinking coffee. Uh,
No, that's
he's
cool. I
always
didn't
drinking a
notice
coffee. He
that.
we actually have a fight when they fight that and I love it so much where one of his producers, like his little PAs, the little goons, they hand him a refilled cup of coffee mid fight. It's something that like Gabriel does a lot of background storytelling like that. Clerk is always smoking a cigarette. You know, everyone has a vice in this world. And it's something that we've been able to play up a lot. And with Bayless, that's a root of his character. He never loses that like caffeine rush, because he's so high on himself. He's so high on everything that he doesn't even realize how much in danger he is. He's over here housing Deadhead and Mason, where you last see him when they get imprisoned, and he thinks he's like, oh, I got my new stars, I got my new guys. This is it. I knew I wasn't losing my touch, because one can argue before Deadhead he was, everything was becoming monotonous.
And
One
played
could maybe
out,
even
yeah.
argue, that like it might be that lack of focus that led to Deadhead even existing, and it's so Bayless, he has that excitement, he has that eagerness because this is his next big thing, and I think that arrogance for sure is gonna cost him. Um, and I love writing Bayless. He's a lot of fun. He might right now he might be one of my favorite villains I've written just because like he's a lot of fun. And I think in a way he's relatable, specifically to artists and creators because we're always thinking, is this the last good project I'm going to work on?
Mm.
What's the next one? And Deadhead is that in between for Bayless. He he's kind of the answer, but also the problem. So
Right.
it's a lot.
He needs him in some regards, but also there's that distinction between them. That's really cool. I want to know you're working on horror here. I know that you have a Kickstarter coming up soon. Can you tell me a little bit about? I have the name here, Sword Slayer.
Oh, awesome. Sword Slayer. Yeah, Sword Slayer, we have been working on that book for so long. It was my first um every creator has that, oh, we've been trying to get this pitched, made. We've talked to everyone, that story. And that's Sword Slayer for me. Sword Slayer is our take on what it means to finally live your dream and realize it's not all it's cracked up to be. It starts Lucas Valle, who he's the hero of the universe, He's been enchanted with a sword that is his to fight all the evil in the cosmos, and he quickly found himself burnt out and over his head, and committed the mortal sin of sword slaying, which is to drop your sword. This is his biggest mistake because it hurt the only person that really cares about him, which is his sword Zach, who is very much hurt and betrayed, and now they're facing a threat that's quite literally destroying the center of the universe, and that's not at all the problem for them. Their problem is saying I'm sorry, just a simple apology. It's a story that, even though at its core it's about big epic space battles, sword fights, it has one of my favorite fights I've ever written in issue two, which will be it's the same deal as Deadhead with the Kickstarter. We're doing 44 pages, issues one and two. Hopefully, with reception, we'll hit retailers and we'll get there. Iron Age has kind of worked out a model where there are two companies. Well, there's two audiences. There's the direct market audience for Iron Age, and there's the Kickstarter audience. And it's awesome because I love to write for everyone and love to write for both. And so with Sword Slayer, it's going to be a complete story in its Kickstarter package, but there's going to be more to come afterward, hopefully, and it'll be fun. It'll be sci-fi. I think what it shares with Deadhead the most is the same pacing of very fast, high octane action. It's kind of like what I'm trying to cultivate. I'm a big believer in fast pace. I love having different structures for different books. I also later this week actually I'm gonna have the announcements of my first YA books for
Oh
paper
wow.
cuts. Yeah, thank you. I have two of them there, and writing all these things at the same time was a really fun challenge. Because of just like, you know, there's like Deadhead and a YA book, very different audiences, very different demographics there, and then Sword Slayer definitely leans more towards the Deadhead side of things. There's gonna be violence, there's gonna be a lot of action, but I truly think at its core it's a bromantic story. It's about
That's cool.
friendship. It's comparing the challenge of apologizing when you know you did wrong to someone you care about, making it comparatively with saving the center of the universe from an evil lord overlord. And,
Very cool.
and if you love swords, we have a lot of
Yeah, I saw that's like the whole beginning of the universe
them.
for that. Where I read
Yeah.
the preview pages and something that you mentioned. But for me, what I noticed is your voice is still different on both of those titles.
Thank you.
But at the same time, like you mentioned, having that action packed, straight to the point. You're able to build worlds while simultaneously, like, still having the fun that you need to have without it being long and drawn out and boring.
Thank
And
you.
so, yeah, I applaud you for picking such great artists too, because Sword Slayer just looks like a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, that's my boy Fernando Pinto, man. That is he is he's incredible. He's one of my best buds. We've been working together for ages, and I'm so excited for the world to see what he's cooking up there. I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's an idea I've wanted to tell for a while. And yeah, it recently I had another collaborator of mine. I just, it's I think every creator has some insecurity, even if we do really well to not admit it. More power to you if you don't want to admit your insecurities. But I do believe all of us have them and we all
Of
share
course.
them. And the best people to ask are the people we're working with. So I asked my buddy, I go like, what would you like? We got to talking and he goes, if I had to classify your style, it's hell yeah. And I was like, what do you mean by that? He's like, I can't really point you into any specific genre. I just know that if I'm reading one of your books, I'm gonna say hell yeah a lot. And I took it. I was like, that's a great, like, I'll take that happily because it's definitely something I've always prided myself in. I've always I've always wanted to write about otherworldly scenarios through characters that are very familiar. It's my belief that even the most powerful overlord god being, whatever you have, you if written well, you can bring them down to the most normal of people possible, perspective wise. So
Yeah.
that's something I kind of keep.
The person that was talking about hell yeah, I totally relate. I'm not sure if it was the first or second issue, but there was like a page turner I had where I literally out loud I was like, "Woo!" Like there was a moment. I think it was this one. It might have
Yeah,
been this double splash. There's a few double splashes that you're just like, oh my goodness!" Like it
uh,
just you get that physical reaction from your story.
absolutely. Thank you so
Um,
much for that. That means a lot.
Absolutely. And I know obviously you're a fan of movies as well. There was a couple of nods to other movies that I picked up in the issue, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's an Akira shot with the final girls where they're like walking towards the car, and then there's a shot where they're driving their car forward, and it looks exactly like the Death Proof poster. I can't remember the director of that movie, but it's like a grindhouse film. And I was
Tarantino.
trying to pick up on all the Easter eggs and nods, but it seems like there's a lot in there.
Oh yeah, and very much that Death Proof one is like we have a character in Volume 2 called Grand Theft Alice, who she's I don't know if this has happened before. I'm not one to be like, oh, I'm the first to do that or whatever, but I have never seen a wear car before, and we're gonna see it in issue 8 of
Yeah.
Deadhead. We have when Gabriel drew that car, I was like, okay. Every writer I think gets this moment when they realize, okay, if this artist likes to draw cars, I can have some fun with this in the future because I haven't had a car chase yet. And I told Gabriel, I was like, what if we have Deadhead versus a car? And
Mm.
that's happening. And Grand Theft Auto, she's a wear car. She is a she's gonna be a lot of fun. She's a part of a crew called the Classics, who are these are my the slashers. There's I'm not a power scaling guy. If any of our readers are into that, I'm sorry beforehand. I'm sure you'll get disappointed because I don't know what power scaling really means per se. I kind of do as a fan of stuff, but like I don't. But all that to say is we wanted to up the ante, up the threat levels, and Grand Theft Alice and the rest of the classics. They're very much that. They are the elite of the elite of slashers, and kind of with them, we're gonna have more of an increase in wild stuff that happens. And as far as like different shout outs, yeah, no, we have a bunch. We have so many. We have I think there's one that it we have a double page spread that pays homage to Invincible that we're very proud of. It's it's a book that I'm glad has blown up, and because for years it was like my special little like book that I used to tell, like when I was a kid I would tell my other friends, I'd be like, read this, trust me, and now they watch it. you
Right.
know we wanted to give homages not just to slashers but to comics, to movies, to everything, because ultimately we're creating a world here that is just like it is everything we satirize or reference or whatever comes from love. We're not mocking anything. Like I can't emphasize. Obviously there's different levels to quality, but in my heart of hearts, I don't really believe there's a bad slasher movie. If the classics, there's obviously bad slasher movies that are made with
Of
bad
course.
intentions, but like overall, I try to find quality in everything over negative. I think it's a lot easier to point out if stuff is bad than it is to point out if stuff is good. For any writer hopefuls, I truly believe pointing out the good and stuff is going to make you a better writer than the opposite. It's pretty easy to point out like negative stuff, so we wanted to just highlight all of that, everything possible with this. So like, yeah, there's a few shots where we're paying homage. There's a few designs where we're going to be paying homage here. my favorite horror movie of all time is The Thing,
Oh,
and
wow.
we have a very fun The Thing homage coming too. So
Yeah, it's really incredible. It's a ton of fun. And yeah, from the design aspect, how much did you have to do with that? Because, let's just say for the Texas Chainsaw-esque character, like she's flipped where it's a girl instead, or like the Chucky doll is a little bit different too. I mean, where did those ideas come from? Like, we're gonna flip all these characters and make them our own thing, or did Gabriel work these up? Tell me about that process.
that's definitely a big collaborative process. I try and stay away from suggesting too much like aesthetics. I try and write what I do is like I do an extensive background on every character, and I give all this material to the artist, and I just say, what does that produce? And with Basher, one thing we wanted to do with her, especially because she's the first slasher we see, and I wanted to establish how our world works. When I say that our slashers they're kind of tired of this job of being a slasher, she's a great representation of that because she wants to be a pinup model. You know that's her thing. That's her. This is the gig that pays for the dream. You know what I mean? So we one thing that I think is very cute is that despite how horrific she is, I love we talked about the idea of like I really love that after she puts on her skin mask, she gets her pigtails done, you know? She gets her makeup done. She cares, she tries. And everyone's like that. Smacky, who's our he's the doll. Smacky, he and a spoiler for him in volume two, when we see him now, he has started his podcast because that
Oh
was
my
his dream. You
goodness.
know, he wanted to get into podcasting. Like that's the last line he says in issue six. At the last time we see him, is like he's like running into the woods and he's like, "I'm gonna get my podcast going." Because like he doesn't have to be a killer anymore. He doesn't have to be a slasher anymore. And in volume two, I know when we shout him out, like we're gonna do the whole thing where he's got like the headset on, and then he's got three other like guest hosts, and and he's gonna be shilling some sort of podcast thing. But it's to just show that like our slashers, they're more than just being killers. A lot of them don't even want to be that. I'm a big fan of our trio, the Zlocks, Mr. Nightster, and Sinister Sister. They're like playing cards at the end of issue one, or I believe it's two, at the in issue two when we meet them. And they're roommates, they're buddies. They have no reason. They're not forced to be together. They're just pals. All three of them are. Zlocks, Mr. Nightster speaks fluent Zlocks, and we never, everything Zlock says, we know what he's saying, but he like it's meant to show familiarity because our world they're a lot more. I think if I ever had to compare this to anything, it's not really comparing, but like whose lead I followed in this regard. I'm a huge Venture Brothers fan. It's my favorite thing ever. It's my comfort show, but it's also one of my biggest inspirations. Shout out to it. If you haven't watched Venture Bros and you love nerd stuff, there is no better satirization, homage, anything in the world of superheroes like Venture Bros. And it's purely because it comes from love. I always said that like you can tell. I'm a huge Garth fan. I'm a huge Garth fan. I gotta say that before I say that, like preface that. But I always said I was like, you can tell how much he's not a fan of superheroes in certain things he writes, right? And I love Garth. He is one of my inspirations. But that is not the case here. This is coming from love. We want to make sure that everyone's favorite slasher. We want readers to have that moment where they're like, "Oh, it's my guy. I get it," and then like it comes from love. It comes from loving these characters, loving these worlds, and the challenge of it is how do you make these horrific killers likable? And I like to think that by satirizing them with love, I think it comes out more positive and readers seem more receptive to it.
Yeah, and you could definitely feel that, and it also in each character that speaks. They have their own individual voices. I really enjoyed The Clerk a lot. Like, I love the environment of like the VHS store and everything. But he also kind of reminded me of like this C3PO-esque kind of character where he's just like there and annoying and doesn't really do anything, but you still appreciate him for like coming along for the ride and stuff, but he doesn't really contribute anything, but he still has a nice funny, humorous presence about him, and he survives as well, which is funny.
Yeah, no, and Clerk he's been a lot of fun. He's like one thing like we've gotten a lot is people have connected him to Mark Maron for whatever reason. Like I've had two different podcasters be like, "So this guy's totally inspired by Mark Maron, right?" And I'm like, "No, but hey, sure if you
Who
want,
who
dude."
is that? I don't even know who that is.
Mark Maron's a comedian legend, podcasting
Oh
legend.
wow, I haven't
He
heard of him.
they have the same hair, facial structure, style, but also like I guess the whininess of Clerk.
Yeah.
Uh, but Clerk very much he represents us. He is he's a fan of this stuff, and that's why he's able to point out in reality like what he serves in the world purpose as he is the middleman between the slashers and Bayless.
Hmm.
If we were seeing a once in a day a routine day, which we totally do not. This isn't routine at all. It's why he actually gets excited about it because he's like, okay, this is different. Um, but normally, a clerk would just be sitting, rotting away in his VHS shop, giving a new assignment to whatever slasher that needs it.
Hmm.
He's kind of like the call center. Um, and that's why the Hell Lot is right under under his shop, which we promise he will get. He oh wait, no, I don't want to spoil that. That happens in issue 6. Something happens to his shop, and he's not happy about it.
Oh
But we
man.
promise he'll get another one. um, with Clerk initially too, he each arc of Deadhead is gonna have like has a similar structure to my favorite Batman animated series, Batman the Brave and the Bold. I
Wow.
think that I
That surprised me to hear you say that.
no, yeah, that's not like obviously the Bruce Timm one is legendary,
Right.
but
I
seriously,
love Brave and the Bold. That's why I'm like, no one ever brings up how great that show is.
because it's so good. It is and that structure of bringing in a guest star, a new guest star superhero, I think it's one of the most brilliant things you could do. I wish there was a translation of that in comics. Like I think that'd be fun because it really put on a lot of characters that people didn't know, kids didn't know. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Blue
Like I think,
Beetle. I mean, that was my
yeah,
introduction to Blue Beetle.
exactly. Blue Beetle. A lot of people. I think Plastic Man has done so
Plastic
well in that
Man,
show.
Guy Gardner.
Guy Gardner. So with Deadhead, since he doesn't talk, I that structure really helps us because I always wanted to give a very talkative partner, and that's why in the first two issues, Clerk is kind of like a quasi. We're following him because he's our speaker. Mason and Deadhead don't speak, and we need someone to kind of like tell the story here. But then once the team sort of assembles, he falls into his own role because of the world in itself. So like he was kind of like a soft buffer for that. And then in volume 2, we introduce a new character who's gonna be that sort of I don't want to make him seem secondary, but Deadhead always will have some sort of partner to verbalize stuff. And also I think that also happens a lot that's just like a slasher thing in general because we ultimately the biggest slasher in our story will always be Deadhead, and that's why he's not talking. So we wanted to pair him with talkers when we needed, and that's truly where Clerk came to be. I wanted to give an homage to the fans, an homage to VHS shops. I wish like I think like different cities have these shops, and I hope they keep growing, which is just like old nerd shit in a spot. And like I miss I it's like vicarious that I wish that we could have lived that era of hanging out at a VHS store
Mm.
readily. And Clerk kind of represents that. He's got his boys who I'm a big fan of them too.
Are they going to come back? I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't read, but let's
well,
wait for
I
that.
will say this: there will always be boys for Clerk.
Okay.
That's his
They're
that's
dispensable.
yeah, that's truly like we've talked about it. Like we were like, what's Clerk's powers? And I'm like, right now, as it stands, his powers are is the ability to create store clerks. So
That's
you
hilarious.
know,
And it's
and
funny that last I don't want to be wrong. I think it's issue 5. The very last is a splash and they're all like looking up. And I think it's Clerk that says something like right on time or something that has to do with like we're right where we need to be or it's perfect or something like that. And I'm like, minus the 2 guys that just died.
yeah, mine is just, he doesn't even stress him,
Yeah.
dude. Like I took like one of my like he's pretty there's like I love the ability of him just he's a clerk and he's a part of the problem of like passing it down. It's kind of that typical if you've ever had like a shitty manager who like is treated just as you are, but like he dishes it back to you. Clerk is kind of like the in between of that because he was a good boss, but like when push came to shove, we very much saw what he did,
Yeah.
and
But
it
they
was a
were
lot
ready
of
too. Those guys were like ready to go, ready to fight for this
absolutely.
man. So it's great.
And like what was great about like I have a lot of fun with Clerk because he we haven't talked this too, but we're very anime inspired, very manga inspired.
I noticed
And
that too. Yeah.
sort of like an anime trope that we kind of borrowed is that like mascot character, you know what I mean? They're like I think in comics, our comics per se, they every character needs to serve a specific purpose, right? Because it's such a character focused medium. In manga, it's a similar way, but there's a lot of precognition, like preconceived ideas that people just accept, and one of those is the mascot character, which he just sits there as an in between from the audience and the story. It's usually like a little back in like the 2000s. It would always be like a very horny little furry character. Like I'm thinking of the guy from Bleach right now, the little stuffed animal
I can't think
who
of I'm not too familiar with Bleach. But for me, like My Hero has the little grape boy
yeah
guy.
like but like usually this character just sits there like he has in the in between breaks, right, of anime where it takes like a little break halfway point. He usually will show up and give you exposition. Whereas Clerk, we didn't want to be that obvious with it, but he really like we when we conceived him, it's why he looks like a little demon. We were like, let's make him look unique. He's a character that we want a lot of questions that we're not gonna really answer outright per se right off the gate, but in having him in mind as the mascot, the spirit of Deadhead, the sort of that representation of if you like Deadhead, you're gonna think a lot like Clerk does. That kind of ended up motivating his actions throughout the rest of the first volume. He the final girls, he's the one that has their contact info, but he knows only to contact them if it's really bad,
Hmm.
right? One thing I purposely back pocketed as a writer because I think that scene is interesting, and I hope readers feel the same way. Is Clerk interacting with Bayless? I wanted to keep that flashback. I wanted to, it something for later. For like for and we did that with all of our characters. Issue 10 is because I have it all. We've been working on it. Issue 10 is an all Mauler Mason issue. It's all
Oh,
Mauler
great.
Mason. Yeah. So I think I love that reaction because that's what I hope people are feeling.
I love
You
that
know?
character. I think he's really great, and I just want to see more of him. And he's like sweet, you know what I mean? He's like
Yeah,
he's got a
he's
kind
great.
soul.
He absolutely. I've I wasn't surprised at how receptive it was. People have been to Mason because that's the intention with him. We were hoping, but I have been pleasantly surprised at how positive the reception is towards him. How everyone like a lot of people think he's cute. Like my writing partner, she says he gives off like a big teddy bear vibes. I'm like, big murderous teddy bear, but
Big
sure, yeah.
murderous teddy bear, but yes.
He and I think it really does come down to that face mask design. One thing about it is that there's two expressions. It he has you can see this if he smiles in his mask, big chances he's frowning behind it, and
Um,
like there's always an inner monologue going on with him, and that's why I wanted to introduce that early and then kind of take it away for a while because like it doesn't go away and like he still feels that way. He's still having his own monologues. And next time we're in his shoes, we'll hear how he feels. Like I his when him and Deadhead depart in issue 6, they have a silent it's a silent panel, it's a small insert panel, but it says a lot. Like it really we wanted to make that because even though we're gonna go places, like I just recently had a sort of like universe lore meeting with everyone of where we're branching out, how far we're going. But the heart of this story is always going to be Deadhead versus Mason. It's just what new definitions that'll take
hmm.
as the story
Yeah, I wanted to jump in a little bit more to the heart of the story, and we'll wrap it up here in a moment. But I think what makes the story so cool is obviously all the bells and whistles that come with, the amazing artwork and the cool character designs is just the heart behind it. And in those moments that you're writing Deadhead, one thing that I noticed was when he's going against these slashers, he's not hesitating, he's not waiting around or giving them a chance. But when he comes face to face with the final girls for the first time, there's a bit of hesitation, and it's like he doesn't immediately go for their throats. And I think that says a lot about,
goes.
Deadhead, and that it speaks a lot of volumes. So I want to applaud you just for being such an incredible writer,
Oh, thank you.
and
Yeah.
being able to characterize in a way that is understood like right off the bat, you
Thank you
know?
so much. Thank you so much for that. It's a whole team effort. I think I can't credit Gabriel enough. I'm telling you, I like if I try not to make like I love comics so much, and I made like when I was younger, I used to have a lot of like ideas because I was 22 and I thought the industry should do this and the industry should do that. And now I've always just been like, no, I just want to love the industry. I want to pour as
Mm.
much love into it because that'll come into fruition. But if Gabriel isn't one of the biggest names in comics after our book, we're doing something wrong because Gabriel has
He's
it,
off the
man.
chain. Yeah.
He's
No
he
pun
is
intended.
and I can't stress that enough because it's not. You might look at it and you'll see a lot of double page spreads and splashes, and you'll see a lot more of them because I love them. Writers put more spreads, put more splashes. Trust me, it'll work. It's a lot of fun. But Gabriel at his heart is that it's those little moments. It's that connection with it's that characterization that he does. It's that heart that he brings. And as far as I can say with the specifics of Deadhead and the final girls, there is Deadhead knows all of these slashers because they've killed him at some point in his life. A lot of them they don't even remember because they don't think about the victims, and we purposely do that. There's no other victim even gets like a name in our book, which I know like might seem like a cardinal sin, but they should be as heartless as it sounds, the people that are killed are resources in this world. The regular people.
Mm.
And Deadhead used to be one of them and it still is. So that moment shows his kind of inner humanity. He never was killed by a final girl. And then Luce is able to connect that together
Mm.
when she sees that, like, oh, this guy and us are just like two sides of a different coin. The final girls, I will say this, I can say that we are in the works of doing a mini series spin-off of the final girls. But all of Deadhead will all go back to the center universe. We're trying to figure out different ways to keep stuff healthy. Iron Age has been awesome, and they want to keep us an ongoing, which is like the biggest dream. Like, I get like I'm overwhelmed right now thinking about it because like you know you're lucky to get 6 issues. You're lucky to get 4 issues in this industry, let alone told that like writing knowing that the next couple volumes are safe and gonna happen just makes it easier on me. And I can't give enough thanks and credits to Iron Age for that. So I can confirm that the we'll see a lot more of why the Final Girls and Deadhead are so similar. And knowing that, please remember that when everybody reads the next volume, because it might sound bad here, but the Final Girls aren't as present in the next volume because
Oh,
again we introduce different characters
right. They're gonna
and
have their own series. We'll still see them.
we're gonna find out why they're not there. We're gonna find out why very much, and they do come into play at the end of it. It was just one of those where like, I see people online that they want to know more about the Final Girls. They want to know more about their world, and I'm like, me too, and I really want to tell you guys about it. So but it's if all this to say, if you like Deadhead, if you're supporting what we're doing, if you're a fan of it, there's a lot more coming, and we're just very proud of it, and we're just getting started. We really have so much more to tell, and I'm very fortunate for this team, very fortunate to be working with Iron Age, and as always, very fortunate to be working in comics. Period. It's the best medium in the world. You know.
Yeah, dude, it's been a pleasure having you. I'm gonna leave you off with one more question because I
Of course.
specifically or mainly or typically I should say talk to artists. So it's nice to have a writer on the page because I'm a writer as well. So it's always nice to,
Thank you.
pick the brains and take some notes in the back here and use some of that inspiration. But I want to know artist wise, we love what Gabriel's doing. Couldn't have think of a better artist to do Deadhead. Let's just say you can go back to a classic era, maybe when you were growing up. Who would you like to see draw Deadhead? Maybe for a issue or Gabriel needs a break, or an artist that maybe is not here with us anymore that you'd like to see an interpretation of.
Well, I can't. So I really won't pick like a classic goat. No offense to any of the classics. But I just feel they all have gotten their flowers. I want to give flowers to a shout out to an artist that I think is one of the most underrated artists somehow of this era, while not being underrated to creators. Is James Herron. I
Oh
would
my
I
gosh,
would I
yes.
would give anything in the world to have James Herron draw anything of mine. I think James Herron is there's just something about when that man draws that it just like the world stops a little bit, it feels the comics world stops. And I think he's an artist that has been honestly just it feels understated because it's one of those things where I feel silly saying, "Oh, James Herron is underrated." Where me and all my friends, we're all like, "Dude,
Right,
James
we
Herron
all love James Herring, yeah.
no, but I feel like he hasn't had that like mainstream breakout moment that like his work calls for. Because I have a lot of original arts in my office, and I have a James Herron piece that I look at all
Oh,
the
no way.
time. So it would be just a dream. I would James Herron drawing Mason would be just poof,
Well, we'll
it
have to petition to get that in order to at least get him on a cover for Deadhead. That would be great.
ah, that would be awesome. Read Ultra Mega if you haven't.
Great. It's
It
amazing. I did a
it's
review on Ultra Mega. Yeah.
so good. He's just oh man, James Herron, you are incredible, sir, and keep doing your great work. I can name so many. I'm a big even though I always wanted to be a writer, I'm not one of those writers. No knock to him. That we all have this origin moment, I guess. But I'm not one of those writers that was an artist for a while and realized he's a writer. I've always wanted to write. So what ends up happening there is I've always wanted to been a writer, but I've always been an artist fan first. So like I can name a litany. But James Herron,
That's a
James
great answer.
Herron drawing Deadhead, and it would be insane.
All
So
right, perfect. Well, AC, dude, it's been an absolute pleasure. Please plug the audience, everybody that's listening, with your Instagram or maybe a website. Plug us with some upcoming things that we can look out for. I know you have a couple other things that you're working on. We mentioned your sword title, and then there's a horror title that you're working on too, if I'm
oh yeah,
correct.
Avatar 6. Yeah, I'm at A_C_ Medina everywhere. I mainly just use Instagram right now. I have Twitter and Blue Sky, Threads, all that, but I don't really use them. I can I think I've never been good at social media, so I've always just been sticking to one. So Instagram is where you can find me. Right now, I have Abattoir 6 as an ongoing series. That's each week. Please keep it on your pre-orders. Obviously, keep Deadhead in your pre-orders. My Kickstarter Sword Slayer goes live next week. I have two upcoming YA books from Paper Cuts, one of which is being announced this week, tomorrow, and then I have another one being announced later. The next convention I'm for sure going to be at is ALA in June in Chicago. I'm very excited to get into the world of YA. I'm so proud of that book. Stay tuned to Deadhead. We have much more Deadhead in store this year. We have a few more Kickstarters coming. We have a few more volumes that are going to be trades. They're gonna. We're. I know we're resoliciting the first trade. There was a couple mix-ups in the first time, so we're gonna do it again. We have volume two coming out soon. I know there's been rumblings of a Kickstarter for a hardcover
Oh,
collected
sweet. Yeah.
series.
Or an artist
Probably
edition, please.
yeah. Oh, that'd be awesome. And yeah, no, and please, yeah, stay tuned. I've got a lot more books coming out, and I'm very lucky, very fortunate, and very grateful to be here.
Oh, I'm grateful to have you. Truly a huge fan, and I'm glad we got this together pretty quickly. It was incredible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was a
So
lot of fun, man. I definitely want to do this again.
yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
We'll definitely have you on. Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Panel Pod. Again, this is AC Medina. I'm going to plug everything with the links in the description, how you can get Deadhead and how you can follow AC. So thanks again, man, for joining us.
Absolutely, man. Thanks God for having me.